In honor of the new Five Nights at Freddy's movies and because I'm a big fan of the franchise myself, today we're talking about mascots because believe it or not, we don't have serial killer animatronics yet. The year is 2004 and Chicken Joe decided to stick up a gas station. 39-year-old Ohio resident Daniel Hayes was feeling broke one day and decided he needed money fast. So instead of DoorDash, Five, or a pyramid scheme, he realized he had a chicken suit and bad intentions. So after equipping his chicken suit and his 38 special, he took a ride down to his local grocery store, where he then went to the cash office, showed them his firearm, which of course they took him to the back. I mean, what other choice did they have? I don't think getting shot by Chicken Little was in the cards for anybody. The robbery went off with no problems, and this was a one-time incident and he probably would have got away with it. See, problem was Haynes was a serial robber, but his problem was he used the same van every time. And once police picked up on that and the van started getting spotted at multiple of the robberies, they started searching for the identity of the owner. Like Daniel Haynes left a trail of chicken feathers leading right to him. If you like this type of video and want to hear about more criminal mascots, let me know in the comments and like the video. Thank you for watching. Today we'll be talking about Ken McElroy, and although up to 60 people seen him get shot at a single person snitch, give me a group of 60 people as solid as that and we are taking over the world. So why did 60 people just let him get shot? But to say the very least, this man is not resting up above right now. Much more fitting. His crimes range from attempted murder of an old man to stealing anything he can get his hands on, including livestock and alcohol, and much more unsavory stuff to see at the very least. And for discretion, this next bit is a bit dark. This is Trina McCloud. Trina when she was 12 and he was 35, where he soon began a more intimate relationship with her. And they were pregnant with their first kid when she was 14. But to avoid the statutory charge that came with that, he burned down her parents' house and shot their dog, all to get her parents to marry her off to him. More right into this, the more I thought those people did God's work. God's work. So how did he die? The town had a meeting discussing what they were going to do with Ken. When they realized there was nothing legally they could do, they knew it was time to uphold. Once the meeting concluded, the 60 members that attended swiftly went over to the bar that Ken frequented, waited for him to come out, sit in his truck before they opened fire. And Ken where he deserved to be once and for all. But let me know if you think he got what he deserved in the comments below. History class teaches us James Earl Ray killed MLK, but really in the 90s, credits got kicking. The King family took the government to court and found them liable for the assassination. The official story was that James Earl Ray was a lone gunman that unalived MLK, but Coretta had everything to say to that. Because they had MLK on more watch lists and burner accounts, FBI, CIA, military intelligence, they all had their eyes on him. Bringing over 70 witnesses to court, including ex-soldiers, agents, and infants police. What comes out starts to look more like an AI-generated story. It's there, but it quite doesn't make sense. Ray wasn't alone. What feels more like an NPC scapegoat. Local police put MLK security away from the hotel that night. And multiple agencies turned into Alphabet Soup playing the game of who's really in charge. The jury only needed 1 hour. 1 hour to say, yeah, the government has something to do with the unaliving of MLK. Craziest part is they only got $100 out of the case. The point was to put the receipts on the table. Let everybody know the government ain't what it seems. Millions of people have been lied to even though it legally has been proven the government was involved.
And remember kids, next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they would.
Have you ever heard the story so fake it couldn't be real? As with the dispatcher who picked up Ruthie Ann McCoy's call through it. In 1987, Ruthie Ann McCoy lived alone and had a history of mental illness. Schizophrenia, mainly nothing violent, just couldn't get the help she needed. In a system that doesn't care about anybody. So when Ruthie Ann McCoy called the operator saying they were coming out of the cabinet, the operator thought this was another delusion. What's messed up is the real crazy one is the one who designed the building. They built it so your medicine cabinet back into your neighbor's medicine cabinet. Meaning you could take yours out and climb into your neighbor's bathroom. I don't know what sick freak thought that was a good idea. Neighbors heard gunshots and screams, the usual crime scene add-ons. It took 2 days for police to get into her apartment after gunshots and screams went off. 2 days, because it didn't win 4th century. And when they got in, Ruthie Mae was shot and robbed, unalive in her floor. Gone too soon. And nobody was convicted. Like the killer or killers glitched in and out like in the back rooms. And that's actually what inspired the scene in Candyman. You know the scene in the 1992 Candyman when he punches through the medicine cabinet? If you don't know the true meaning behind the Candyman movies, you should go figure that out. Crazy, you can tell the cops exactly what's happening. They can still not help you out. Today we're talking about death squads, the craziest side hustle you've never heard of. To get there, we gotta talk about the Candelaria massacre, so buckle up. Pictures of the dead at night outside the Candelaria church in Brazil. A group of homeless teens would sleep outside on the church's steps. Now imagine the cops show up and start mag dumping on the people they're supposed to be protecting. No warning, not even a single warning shot, just a massacre. Only one person survived the incident, playing dead while they gunned down their friends. If we haven't got it yet, these death squads were the Brazilian police, who decided if the courts weren't going to clean up the streets, they would do it themselves. It got to a point where they even sold themselves as extermination services. These death squads chose to target undesirables such as homeless teens and kids and petty thieves. The kids taking on the step that night, they weren't gang members, they weren't danger to anybody, they were just glue-stepping kids with nowhere else to go. And even though Brazil was dragged through international pressure for the event, no one really got charged for it. Most walked free or stayed on the force. You might think death squads are a thing of the past. There's no way those still happen anymore. Well, you're right to extent. They just got renamed. Under run by private security, hiring ex-soldiers to run the paramilitary operations or police and militia groups. More proof the police are nothing more than a gang. Most people are asked if some are planned, some are IVF, but have you ever heard of ventilation insemination? Ventilation insemination. Me, Daisy Links, and Juan D. Pass both locked in a Florida prison for unaliving, separate unalivings. No visiting, no touching, no gauze involved. They start floating through the air ducts. Them on the 6th floor and Horror on the 4th, the only way for them to communicate was to whisper sweet nothings through the AC. After about a month of passing notes and patients through a string of events, they decided let's get pregnant. And after a month of sending 5 nuts wrapped as a saran wrap a day through the vents, she eventually got pregnant. Yeah, she was catching nut like Pokemon trying to fill up a Pokédex. Every time you sent one down, she put it on a makeshift applicator and tried to get herself pregnant. Until it worked. The baby was born in June 2024 and given to the father's mother. And when the jail finished investigating the case, they came out saying no one did anything wrong, but they did end up settling the vets. So why did they decide to have a baby in jail? Well, the mother thought she might get better treatment in jail or even get out. Could you imagine if that's your dad's How I Met Your Mother story? One day I heard this hot voice in the vents, hot voice in the vents. 9 months later, you were here. A lot of us seen The Boy in the Lion statue. You know, the one with the eyes that follow you. You had me think, I would hate to see a weeping angel coming. Yeah, I know that's not how that works, but reality can be a lot stranger than fiction. Like in the case of Raimundo Rivera, where he just mysteriously disappeared. Or so it seemed. The year is 2018 in Lancaster, California, and after a traffic stop went wrong, Raimundo decided to get in a win. After losing the cops, you think you'd be straight, right? Wrong. Because once 24 hours have passed and there's still no sign of Raimundo, his family got worried. Of course, they did the logical thing and found a missing or person important they needed Raimundo found. But police weren't really any help. They didn't have any sightings of him, and he kind of leave him in the dust. But people don't up and vanish. What happened to Raimundo Rivera? 5 days after the traffic incident, the local grocery store started getting reports of a weird smell coming from one of the insides of a stone pillar. Thinking it was a dead animal, they called the fire department to come get it out. Instead, when firefighters started digging into the pillar, they found a foot. Turns out when Raimundo hit the grocery store, he climbed on top and decided to hide in the hollow stone pillar, becoming stuck and roasted in the hot California sun. I mean, brings no meaning to self-checkout. Imagine starting your life out as a lab rat and nobody told you. Worse, lab was also sealed until 2066. So in the 1960s, this adoption agency in New York, the Lewis Wise Agency, teamed up with psychiatrist Dr. Peter Neubauer, who, much like Ty Howard said, fuck split screen, let's run different campaigns and see who glitches first. And so they did. Twins and triplets separated at birth, adopted parents lied to, and kids monitored and treated like lab rats throughout their childhood. But the test started before the kids were even separated, choosing them from mothers who came from mothers with depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar. They wanted a varying selection. They basically got corrupt files and studied the error messages, if you really think about it. But of course, they took a step further, assigning each kid to a different economic class. One rich, one poor, one middle class. This test was supposed to see how money affected identity and mental health, but the researchers basically dropped in a different difficulty and said triplets Robert your friend, Eddie Garland, and David Carlin. The triplets accidentally met at age 19 and blew up in the media before uncovering the experiment later, leading Eddie to, unfortunately, Paula Bernstein and Elise Shine met later, but uncovered the same secrets and trauma that knew how unethical his experiments were. So we had them sealed at Yale until the year 2066. With none of the research, no apology, no transparency, just trauma. They ran psychological warfare on children and call it an experiment. Imagine it's 2023 and your plane crashes in the Amazon server. Nope, not Jeff Bezos, but South America Amazon. While many would like to see Jeff Bezos crashing first, a plane crashes, unfortunately unaliving 3 and leaving 4 surviving children. Aging from 13 to 1 month, the mom told the oldest before she died was in charge of Survival LLC. From foraging wild fruits to building a tent out of the scraps from the plane, hiding in tree trunks, she made sure her and her siblings stayed alive. This girl needs a fucking medal. Search team from the government and local indigenous people searched for days looking for these kids. The government blasted the recording of their grandma's voice telling their children to be still while the government was coming. Even a Belgian Malinois named Wilson was unfortunately lost in the forest. R.I.P. Wilson. After 40 days in the Green Hill, 40 days in the Amazon rainforest, these kids were found skinny, mosquito bitten, but alive. Colombia, where the kids were from, named them the Kids of the Jungle. If you want to hear more about this story, Netflix has a pretty interesting documentary right here. Imagine if your government dropped a nuke on you for a noise complaint. Philly in 1986, when local cops decided to drop a duffel bag full of C4 and dynamite on a house full of people. Who exactly did they bomb? Move, this black liberation group that believed in living communally, eating raw foods, and blasting anti-police brutality messages at all times through the day. Neighbors hated the noise and the smells, the city hated the politics, and later you had beef with the police. 1978, Philly PD and the Move members had a shootout leading to the death of one officer, the 9 members involved in the shootout getting decades in prison. When they got the call MOVE was reinforcing their residence, they pulled up with tear gas, ARs, and bulldozers. And when MOVE members decided to not leave the house, police took it upon themselves to feel like zone was closing in, and they was the last 2 teams alive. After dumping over 10,000 rounds into the residence, police decided to drop the Acme bomb from a helicopter, letting it incinerate the neighborhood for up to an hour and a half. 11 dead, 5 were kids, and 61 houses were burned down. The city labeled it as a mistake. They dropped an ordinance on a zip code and called it an accident. And of course, no cops were charged. The real crime isn't dropping bombs, it's making too much noise.